Hey everybody, Brady here, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be playing the Dragon instead of the Semislav. Normally I post the Semislav on the, it's the third game, so on the Thursdays and Sundays. Today's a Sunday, but it's going to be a Dragon because it's just so hard to get some Semislav games. And I have a tournament to prepare for, so I can't really play too much longer. Against the Alpin, I do recommend this move knight to f6. And the reason why is because we want to provoke their pawns forward. If we can do that, we can get some nice play going. So I'm going to take on d4. And I'm going to play d6 here. So I'm going to play things a little weird and funny. But there's an interesting variation that we can try here, which can net us a nice position. So I'm expecting knight f3. We might get bishop c4 instead. But I don't think either one really bothers us. Let's see what happens. There's no way to take advantage of this, by the way. It looks a little strange. It looks like some sort of Alekhine, but because of the Alpin being played as is, this is just not an effective line against what we're playing right now. So it's nice to know that. That probably made no sense. Sorry, I've been playing a lot of games today and filming a lot, so this is the last game of the day for me, so my brain's like melted. So expect the lowest quality chess you've ever seen in your life, or the highest quality if this is your first time seeing the channel and you've never watched a chess video before. But my guess is that maybe you have. Anyways, so they're thinking, they're probably looking at moves like queen b3, bishop c4, or queen a4 check. Even knight c3 makes a lot of sense to look at in this position. And it throws people for a loop a little bit because they're not really sure what to do. So here, after taking on d6, we actually don't want to take this pawn, which is funny. We would rather play e6 and give them an isolated pawn themselves. So we could do this in two ways. We can take with the queen, or we can play e6. I would rather play e6 here. And the idea is we're going to take on d6 in one more move. And there's no way to really take advantage of it. They can't really give a check, and then we block, and then they somehow defend it. Because we always either have some sort of like queen b6, or we just take it. So it's important to mention. But yeah, so yeah, again, they're spending a little bit of time here, and I think it's mainly because they might not have seen this before. It is a very popular line to play against the Alpin, but a lot of people, when they're at this level, they don't study the Alpin. They study maybe a closed, they will study the open for sure. Like everybody, if you play a Sicilian, you have something against the open. Because, well, you have to, right? It's either a Taimanov, Sveshnikov, Naidorf, whatever. And in this case, we're playing a dragon. But this is very far from a dragon, if you ask me. But I already showed before why whenever you're playing the Alpin, you don't really want to go for those fianchetto setups. If you haven't seen that video, I do recommend it. I think it's actually extremely instructive because we get into a pretty awful position quite fast. And we didn't really do anything wrong. It just kind of happens, which is really unfortunate. So keep that in mind. We can't just willy-nilly go for them and expect everything to be okay. So this sacrifice does not work yet. I don't really need to calculate it because there's certain things that they need to have in order for it to work. That's why I played that move quickly. Generally, you should calculate these sacrifices, especially in these Alpin positions, but I'm just so smart. No, it's because I've seen these positions quite a bit before, so I'm not too worried. All right, and now I want to go b6, but I don't want to allow knight to e5, so I could go g5 here. That feels like a bit too much, though. Bishop e7 is quite safe as well. Just getting out of any pin problems here. And I want to go b6 and bishop b7. Get this fella on the best diagonal possible. And it's important to mention, sometimes you might want to go a6 and b5, but you have to be very careful. In some of these isolated queen pawn positions, it can actually be a huge mistake to go a6 for b5. Even if you're potentially getting a tempo on the bishop on c4, it doesn't matter. You should not do that. You should just focus on the development like this. Because normally what you'll see in these IQP positions is the bishop will go back to a2. And if you play a6, b5, and the bishop goes back to a2, you're actually kind of helping them and not really hurting them. So do remember that. Sometimes just go for the move b6 instead of a6, b5. Seems like a very, very small thing, but it can actually mean the world in these positions. So be careful. So bishop b7, and now I'm looking at moves like rook c8, trying to take over the c file. We can always follow up with a6, b5 after, but I'm in no rush. So I'm just going to go rook c8 here, threaten to take. And this is actually a mistake. Can you see why, my friends? Good. You're excellent. Excellent. We can actually just take on c3 anyways, because this fella is hanging at the end of the day. And they don't really have time for intermezzos. Ooh, is it hanging at the end of the day? Maybe it's not. No, it is. It is. Oh, never mind. Rook a1, we can go bishop b2 and then take here. We still have to be careful, though. Actually, we have rook c3. Might be good, too. Even if we sacrifice an exchange. Which is a little funny, but it might be possible here. I'm opting for bishop to b2. We have to be very careful. So let's just calculate some stuff here. And see if they go into it. Rook a1, bishop to b2, rook takes a7, bishop takes on f3, queen takes f3, bishop takes on c3. And the thing is, we have to be very careful that we allow some sort of queen e4 action. I don't think it works, though, and that's why I'm going into this. This is what I calculated. So queen e4 is prevented, and if they take on f6 and then do something there, it also just doesn't work, but barely. But it's good to calculate those things out. So I'm just going to move back. Maybe I shouldn't be calculating so fast. Sorry about that. Again, my brain is kind of dead right now. So instructive Braden is no longer here. But he's trying to be. Bishop d6 was also quite good. Offering trades. We're up a pawn. So trades are a-okay. If they go queen a1 trying to win this pawn, I'm going to go a6. I could also go queen c7. This has the same function of trapping the queen if they end up taking. Oh, wait, no, I can't go queen c7. This is what I mean of if you record too many games and if you play too much. Your brain just goes to mush. So that's what's happening. So we're going to pretend that I didn't say queen c7. And we're going to say, yeah, we're going to go a6. And the idea of a6, which actually does work, is if they take, then we can go rook a8. They do have rook a2, though, at the end. And then all of a sudden, it's not as effective. It's good to know. Okay. So we should probably consider something like a5, maybe. We still have a weakness to defend, but I'm not too concerned. I'm not too concerned, actually. If they don't do anything, I'm going a6, b5, though. Because now it actually makes sense. All of our pieces are on good squares. It's okay to trade now. Before we didn't want to trade because... or not trade, sorry. We didn't want to go a6, b5 because it was slow. Now it makes sense because, again, it's all about development, right? If you're well developed, if you're developing well, then it's okay. But if you're not, then you can run into troubles. And actually, there's a game. There's a game It's in Chess Tactics Antenna by Emmanuel Neiman. And I want to find it. Don't mind me. I'm going to stay in the chair so you don't see how fat I am. That's right. I'm going to go whoop whoop. Hee hee. Okay, they're still thinking. I'll show you after. I'll mention it after. But it's in this book. I'm not going to open it yet because we're in a game, and that's not fair. I'm so funny. Okay, they're going there. I like taking on f3. Not going to lie, it does look yummy. Also, knight d5 looks good. We have to be careful, though. These bishops look like snipers right now. So one idea is potentially taking on c3. If they go c4, then I want to go knight b4 and get this guy off the board. If we get rid of one of their bishops, I think we're doing really, really well. So, but of course, taking on c3 is really nice. And the other idea is, sure, I can take on f3. I just don't think we should do that. I think we should more so focus on getting this one off the board. And it looks like we have that option now. We could also play this differently. But I don't think we should. I think we should just go here. Yeah, let's go bishop f6. They can go c4. But we can try taking. And then if they take, then we can just take again. Oh no, we don't take yet. We take on c2. Yeah, so I think we can take on e5 here. So if they take on d5, we can just take on c2 and then take on d5. Does this lose us any material? Takes. 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 It does lose us material, actually. So you got to be a little bit more careful than that. Maybe knight e7 or knight c7. The problem is I don't have knight b4 anymore, which is really sad. I really wanted to play it. Makes me sad. But they're so low on time that I don't think we have to worry. And I don't like playing like that, but the thing is, yeah, I think this was a mistake anyways. Bishop f6. Oopsies. So let's just go knight e7. And we'll take. We have f5 to shut down their bishop a bit. We're threatening to take on f3 finally. I think it's finally a good move. Before it wasn't as much, but now it's looking quite spicy. This is a very strong move by them. I'm just going to go f5 though. Ooh, do I go f5 or do I just take it? I really don't want to take it because that was a really strong move. Wow, okay. Let's go f5. I think we need to. So they do have some weaknesses to attack, but they're quite low on time. So I'm not too worried. Queen c7. As long as we just make sure we don't fall into any tactics, like bishop f5, then we can say that we played a good game. There we go. Awesome. Tactics antenna. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Okay, let's look at it. So yeah, my mistake, I guarantee, is probably... Ooh. I don't know why it's... Okay, anyways. I think the reason why it's going to be saying that is because if we go to the end here, so we should have a pretty good position. And yeah, actually, black is slightly being preferred more and more. And I'm happy that this worked out. So I was looking at rook a1. I wasn't sure what to think of this. Bishop b2, rook takes a7. I didn't think bishop takes f3 was, like, amazing. It's something to look at. I was also looking at rook takes c3 here. I wasn't sure. But the thing is, they do have this really annoying initiative going on here. despite being down the pawn, like all of their pieces are just kind of beautiful. But after rook a1, turns out, yeah, one thing I was thinking is rook takes c3. And if they go d5, sacrificing the exchange somehow. And it turns out this is totally correct. And I'm really happy to be able to say that because this was my instinct and what I was going to probably play down at the time when it was coming up. So rook c2, bishop e7, and bishop f6. It felt a little bit wrong because it allows the c4, and I miscalculated this. So I wasn't sure what was going on here. Turns out this is quite good. So takes on d5, takes on c2, rook takes c2, or let's just say queen takes c2, and oh, bishop f4. Okay, so rook takes c2. There's bishop takes d4. I did not see this. I did not see this because after knight takes d4, there's actually taking on d5, threatening mate, and then if you defend it, you actually still win a piece by taking on d3, and we're completely winning here. That's phenomenal and not human. Well, it's probably human. Like this is definitely something that can be calculated, but not by me and not at the quality of play I'm having today. But yeah, really, really fascinating stuff. But if we go all the way back, this knight to f6 stuff is a really good way to play. And also this move e6 I think is quite reasonable. It doesn't love it here. I think it's a fine move. We can also, of course, just take on d6 and continue with moves like e6. I think this is fine. Or even g6 to go into some sort of like Grunfeld almost. But they have an IQP instead. Like even a dragon, actually. We can just say dragon, which is even nicer to say. Because since they don't have that e-pawn, this d-pawn is more of a target than an asset. So that's something to mention. And yeah, we just, as long as we focus on our development and bringing our pieces to the king side, that's pretty important. So one thing I was calculating here was, does bishop takes h7 work? And it doesn't. So after takes, knight g5, king g6 is what I would personally try to play in these positions first. Turns out king g8 also works, of course, because we have knight to f6. It's better to bring this knight here because this knight's quite active, no reason to move it, and this is winning. But also, it's important to mention king g6 lines just in case. We have to be a little bit careful, but things work out. So queen g4, and the reason why these things work out is I think the cleanest one to look at is f5. And there's no queen g3. If there's queen g3 in these lines, you can end up in a lot of trouble. Or even if there's a pawn on e5. If there's a pawn on e5, generally queen g3 will be possible. So that's kind of out of the question. But also if there's a pawn on e5, sometimes moves like this can be very, very scary. Of course, it's nothing to worry about here. We're all okay. But just a small thing going on here. But all right, let me open up this book. I do recommend it if you want to get a book. I think this is phenomenal for people. I'd say rated 1200 to like 1900. Very phenomenal book. It's all about looking for tactical themes and then also exploiting them. So let me just quickly pull up one of the first ones. Wait, is it in this book or is it in? Wait, it's not in this book. It's in my other book. It's in my other book. So I got the wrong book in the first place. That's still a really good book, but it's actually from a structure book from the IQP. So let me get that and also swivel because I'm hilarious. I do have pants on, by the way. That's not why I'm doing it. Okay. So, Chess Structures, a Grandmaster Guide. This is the book I was thinking. Also a really good book and something I recommend. And in the Isolani, there was this game. I think it was the first game that was shown. Let me see here. Yes. Was it the first game? Yeah, there we go. Found it. So if you're a bit slow, then you can run into trouble. So this is Zvazingev versus Vazquez. This was played in 2013, and I'm just going to go over it slightly. I'm not going to go too in depth. If you want to get the book, I feel Like, it would be a bit strange to just, you know, take the whole book and cover it, cover the whole thing. But after e takes, knight f6, knight c3, c takes d5, c takes d5, knight takes d5, knight f3. I'm just going to turn off the lines. They're not really necessary here. Knight f3, e6, bishop c4, knight c6, castles. And again, yeah, this is one of the first things from this book. d4, castles, rook e1, and knight back to f6. So, anyways, this is the main position to talk about. Is this move a3 is really important. So the idea is it prevents some sort of knight b4 to d5 action, which is very common in these positions. So if you're a bit slow and play something like bishop d2, knight b4 to d5 is reasonable, because when you have the isolated pawn or you're playing against it, you want to blockade and put a knight in front of it. Specifically, a knight would be best. Of course, if you can get a bishop there too, it's not always that bad. Of course, lots of things can change those evaluations, but that's why a3 was played, and also because then if you ever get hit with some sort of random like knight a5, you can play bishop to a2. So anyways, and now a6 was played, and this is what I was talking about before. So sometimes a6 can look like a good move because it looks like you're developing just as fast with b5 and bishop b7, but there's actually some problems with this. So this is somewhat slow, especially since b7, b5 will greatly boost the strength of the break d4, d5 as well. So just being a little too slow. And after bishop a2, you don't even get that tempo. And b5, this was actually a huge mistake, as after d5, the play just absolutely explodes. I do recommend looking at this book as well as the other one, even though that was the wrong book I picked out. That one is still also really good. So d5 causes problems. However, if they just played the more simple b6, then they run into less issues. Whereas, for example, if they go bishop a2 here and bishop b7, this is significantly different than when d5 or a6, b5, and then d5 was played, because now if they play d5, all of a sudden we actually are a little bit more prepared, specifically because the bishop's already on b7. So yeah, lots of nuances there, and you don't have to look at that like too much at face value and at the specifics of it. It's more ask yourself if a6 b5 is necessary, or if you can just get away with b6, because a6 b5 generally will be possible later on. Very small, but still kind of a good nuance to know about. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you all next week. All right, thank you, and bye-bye.